UFC 289, Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana. Welcome to another UFC and prediction and analysis video from yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by Zan, I go by Harris as usual. Fight by fight breakdowns, fight by fight predictions. From that betting perspective specifically, we want to let you know which fights are worth the value, which fights to avoid, which underdog has the best shot at winning, and some parlay action toward the end of the video as well. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks. And most importantly, we want to hear from you in the comments. Numbered UFC event 289. This is taking place in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. 11 fights overall. 5 of them are on the main card. 6 of them are on the prelims. So let's get started with our prelims. Fight number 1, we are looking at Diana Belbiţă versus Maria Oliveira. Women's strawweight bout. This is pretty much a pick'em. Diana Belbiţă, it's been 16 months since her last fight. She lost to Gloria DePaula back at that time, of course. Introduced as a striker. She's a heavy-handed striker at that. Puts her combinations together pretty well. Has a Muay Thai stance. As she does that, she likes to come forward. She's a pressure fighter, bit of a brawler, and definitely pushes that high pace, especially early in the fight. Something that I don't like about her game, she doesn't really have the best takedown defense. Cardio, super questionable as well. And she really only has one gear, one style, one game plan. These are things that I've seen her make improvements on, but still very unreliable in those aspects. Maria Oliveira, on the other hand, lost to Vanessa Demopoulos back in November. Also has a Muay Thai style. Also can be explosive early in the fight. She's going to use her jab to keep distance, decent calf kick, push kicks, things like that for further distance control. A good consistent level of activity, not afraid to engage with her opponents. And again, similar to Diana Belbiţă, expect a lot of explosive combinations, especially in that earlier part of the fight. She also has those similar cardio issues. As she slows down, it's a lot more about fighting from the outside. The explosiveness definitely goes away. The activity goes away as well. So watch out for that. And again, she also has poor takedown defense. So I'm looking at this fight, 2 fighters, similar skill sets, 2 strikers with similar red flags, right? 2 strikers with cardio issues. And in a lot of ways, that's going to make this anyone's match, especially that these are probably lower level fighters. I do like Diana Belbiţă in this spot for a few reasons. I do think her cardio is slightly better. I do think her takedown defense is slightly better. I think her takedowns are slightly better should she need them. But more importantly, I think she's just slightly more reliable in keeping that pace, going while she's still tired. I can see that equating to, a round 3, for example, going in her favor if the first 2 rounds are split. Plus, I know we see the Romanian flag there, but she does reside in Ontario, Canada. I know this fight not exactly taking place in Ontario, but she may still have that Canadian audience in her favor, and that might give her that extra push that she needs. So I'm looking at Diana Belbiţă to start us off here. I think she's going to get the win.
Yeah, honestly, I think this is really, really low level MMA. We're looking at 2 fighters that want to keep it on the feet. The grappling really is not going to be much in this fight, unless Belbiţă, I think, should go that route. If she goes that route, she can really make this fight interesting, mixing in the grappling. I think she is the better grappler. I think she's the better technical fighter. But I give Maria Oliveira the athleticism. She has the length. Does she have the reach advantage?
1 inch.
1 inch, right? But she looks long, right? So, and she has that movement, right? That blitzing style at certain points in fights can catch fighters off guard. In that first round, I find that she's really good, but as the fight goes on, it seems like she does taper out. So I'm going to go with the fighter that I think doesn't use as much energy. I think Oliveira uses a lot of action in her striking, a lot of energy is used to keep that fighting style up. And for 3 rounds, that's going to be tough. In a fight that can go either way, I'm going to go with Belbiţă, who I think is the more technical striker. Albeit anyone can win this striking. It's pretty close, but I think Belbiţă is the one that's not going to be using that much energy. She's going to be able to carry this over for 3 rounds. But as far as betting, this is a fight you definitely want to stay away from. It's under the UFC banner, but this is not UFC level.
Second fight of our prelims, David Dvořák taking on Steven Erceg. David Dvořák, 2-fight losing streak. He lost to Manel Kape back in December. Controlled on the feet, really patient, good setups, good calf kicks, good counter punches as well. He's going to take his time to try to read his opponent. Good striking defense, pretty good head movement. Just a high IQ fighter overall on the feet. He is a bit flat-footed, really likes to sit in his stance that will allow him to generate some good power. His pace could be a little bit better, and I will mention that point a little bit later. And important to highlight his takedown defense, 81%, pretty good on paper. Steve Erceg, UFC newcomer, he's on an 8-fight winning streak, eternal MMA champ. 6 of his 9 wins are via submission. So that's the first thing that you want to notice about him. Patient striker from what I'm seeing with good movement. Pretty calculated from what I'm seeing as well. He's going to take his time. He's going to want to close distance. Not really an overwhelming style on the feet by any means, but he can overwhelm some fighters with those takedown attempts. That is an active part of his game. He is good at getting fights to the mat. Pretty crafty if he can get it on the ground. Good ground control, good at finding those chokes, again, alluding to 66% of his victories coming by way of submission. Interesting fight that I'm looking at here, of course, because David Dvořák has been taking on, at least in his past couple of fights, a pretty good level of MMA competition. And Erceg is the newcomer, right? But Erceg's strength is in his ground game. And David Dvořák, of course, 81% takedown defense. If Erceg cannot land the takedown, I think he's going to have trouble competing with Dvořák striking. This is where a higher pace from Dvořák could really separate him in this fight. I can see takedowns being harder to land as the fight goes on, but Erceg is very live, right? Again, he is dangerous with those chokes. It really just takes one takedown, and Dvořák does have some pacing issues, not throwing that higher pace that might allow Erceg to, potentially land some takedowns. But ultimately, I'm going to roll with David Dvořák. I mean, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's in a very winnable situation for him if he game plans correctly for it. And I think he will be prepared. He has good takedown defense. He has the better striking. He should be able to keep it on the feet, especially as the fight goes on. I don't see, and he has the UFC experience on top of that. So he should get it done, but be careful with this one because it could be a bit of a trap.
Yeah, good breakdown. Dvořák is going to be the better striker, better movement. This guy is the much better striker in this fight. When you look at Erceg striking, the movement's not there, the head movement's not there, but he's really reactive. He does have a good counter, and he does have the ability to catch you slipping. And kind of once you get to the mat, we're going to talk about the grappling. That's his game. I think he's one of the better grapplers out of the U.S. In the UFC. He seems like that's the fight he wants. He wants to get this to the mat, and when he gets it there, he's really, really effective. That I actually give this guy a good shot at surprising people because he is the far better grappler. If he can get that back, he has a really good back game, really good control, and he gets a lot of his submissions in that area. And even getting the back, he's good at doing that. He's not good at getting takedowns. He's not that good there. I don't think he's able to take down Dvořák, but I could see him jumping on Dvořák's back from some type of scramble. If Dvořák wants to play grappling, he's going to be in a lot of trouble because I don't think Dvořák's grappling can compare to this Steve Erceg guy. But Dvořák's a smart guy. He's a chess champion, so you got to have a high IQ. He has to know that. I don't know if he's a chess champion, but I know that he was a serious chess player. But he has to use that IQ here, and he has to know that the grappling is a no-no in this fight. Keep it on the feet. He should be able to move around. Should be hard to take him down, and he should outpoint Erceg or at least land something nice at some point. But Erceg at any point can club and sub, right? And at any point, Erceg can get the back. If he does, he's pretty quick with his work there. So you got to be careful as far as betting goes. It's one of those fights that just like the Egger fight. It's a fight where someone can lock in that submission here and ruin parlays. But I got to go with Dvořák for the channel. But Erceg is definitely super live. But again, he's going to be losing until he gets that submission. But he is super live because he does have really good submissions.
All right, let's move on to our third fight in that case. Kyle Nelson versus Blake Bilder. Of course, on this card, we will see a lot of Canadians, Kyle Nelson being one of them. He had a majority draw versus Doo-Ho Choi back in February. Jiu-Jitsu and kickboxing are his introduced backgrounds. Decent striking, good power, decent combinations as well. His striking is fairly basic, fairly straightforward in his approach, but he does put a lot into his strikes. He can be pretty dangerous from that perspective. Just over a takedown, or almost 2 takedowns, I should say, per fight at this point. He landed 5 of them in his last fight, so keep that in mind. Just a combined 2 takedowns in his 5 fights beforehand. So interesting. I mean, solid wrestler, has not been an overwhelming wrestler in the past, but again, you allude to his last fight versus Doo-Ho Choi, maybe something that is intentionally available for him going forward. He's going up against Blake Bilder, who beat Shane Young in his February debut, still undefeated. Half of his wins are via submission, 1 KO on his resume as well, for what it's worth. Bit of a slow starter, a lot of fighting from the outside. I don't think his striking is great by any means, but essentially, to the point of his submission victories, he is a good grappler. He can land takedowns. He's going to improve position on the ground. He's going to be very controlled, look for that submission opportunity. Doesn't really have the most active ground and pound, but again, you do have to be careful with him because he will find those submission attempts. Cardio holds, he does get more active, more aggressive as the fight goes on. Again, alluding to that slow start that he has. So look for him to pick up momentum as the fight goes on. I'll say this though, Blake Bilder doesn't really impress me enough to be a sizable favorite really against anyone, not at this stage in his career. I am looking at this in a lot of ways as a 50-50 fight. I've seen Blake Bilder hurt before, and I've seen Kyle Nelson crack. So Kyle Nelson definitely is live by way of puncher's chance, if nothing else. Again, fighting in front of the home crowd as a Canadian. Nelson doesn't really have amazing takedown defense. I think that could definitely cost him in this fight. Although Blake Bilder probably not the best at landing takedowns, even though that is part of his game. And Bilder 100% takedown on defense on paper. Of course, very small sample size in the UFC. But I don't know how good the takedown defense is. It's hard to find footage of him really being tested, in that arena. I have seen him be taken down before. I have seen him give up, 2 rounds of ground control before. So that makes me think that Kyle Nelson can have moments where he finds those takedowns, where he has that top control. And again, very much a 50-50 fight in my eyes. Something's telling me to side with the underdog, Kyle Nelson, on this one. I don't know if it's the home crowd. Maybe it's not being high on Blake Bilder and thinking he's a bit overvalued here, but I can see Kyle Nelson shocking a few people. I can see Kyle Nelson potentially hurting Blake Bilder. I can see Kyle Nelson potentially landing takedowns against Blake Bilder. And I can see him just being the tougher of the 2 fighters here in front of the home crowd. So to me, it's very much anyone's fight. If anything, dog or pass. Maybe it's just bias because I'm not too high on Blake Bilder. But from a pick perspective, I'm going to make the underdog call, and I'm going to go with Kyle Nelson. I think he gets the job done.
Yeah, man, I don't think so, man. I think when you look at the wrestling, I think they're pretty close in the wrestling. They both can grapple, but I think Blake Bilder might be the better jiu-jitsu player, but I think it's close either way. But when I look at the striking, in this fight, I do think Bilder has the better striking. It's close there as well. So like Harris says, it is a close fight all around, but I think Bilder's slightly better. But in those fights, anyone can win if you're just slightly better. But I give Bilder the big edge in the cardio. I think he has much better cardio than Nelson. I think Nelson slows down after that first round. I think Bilder's more built for 3 rounds. So I'm going to go with Blake Bilder here. He also has that dog in him. He's going to fight for your money. He's not going to quit. I seen quit in Nelson. So I'm going to go with Blake Bilder here to dog it out here and get the win.
Fight number 4, we are taking a look at Aiemann Zahabi versus Aoriqileng. For Zahabi, 2-fight winning streak, unanimous decision win over Ricky Turcios back in July. Switch stance fighter, bit unorthodox in the stand-up. His stand-up feels like it lacks direction sometimes. He's going to use a lot of movement, but he has good punching power. Half of his wins are via KO, TKO. Not the most active striker. You know, sometimes he's looking for too perfect of a shot and never really gets to initiate that offense sometimes. But he's patient. He's going to look for it. And, you know, there's been a few occasions of him finding it. BJJ black belt, but we won't really see him actively trying to take fights to the ground. When those opportunities present themselves, he definitely has high IQ, very agile in the clinch, very agile in grappling situations as well. Otherwise, expect him to keep it, you know, on the feet, keep it at range, and you know, just look for that moment to land the perfect shot. Aoriqileng also on a 2-fight winning streak. He had a unanimous decision win over Jay Perrin back in August. He's a patient striker, a lot of switch stance, patient, controlled pressure, solid calf kick as well. With that patience, he's going to pick his shots well. Sneaky counter puncher, has pretty good power as well. Decent takedown numbers offensively. 5 takedowns landed over his over 4 UFC fights. Takedown defense is not the best. You know, it's okay at best, though I do believe he's above average on the ground, just all things considered. Good cardio, can definitely go that full 15 minutes, no problem. And you know, I'm looking at another close fight. I mean, of course, the odds indicate that between 2 fighters essentially who are going to approach the fight in the same way. I think the difference for me is that Aoriqileng is going to be the one that's going to strike first more often. Aoriqileng is going to be the one that goes for takedowns more actively. You got to think Aiemann Zahabi has the power advantage, but in Aoriqileng's 9 losses, he's never been knocked out. So, you know, you gotta give it up to his chin there. Still just 29 years old. So that chin may not have worn off yet. I can't say it's a confident pick at all, but I am going to side with Aoriqileng in this fight based on his chin, or at least based on his record, in terms of never being finished. Zahabi, to me, again, just never the one to dictate the pressure, never the one to force the pace. And I think that's going to allow Aoriqileng to outpoint him. My gut says Zahabi gets it done, so don't be surprised there. It definitely is a close fight. But analytically, I'm going to have to side with Aoriqileng. So Aoriqileng will be my pick.
Yeah, this is a tough one, man. Qileng has a high work rate. This guy, and he has a high pressure rate, and he's able to keep it up for at least a good 2 rounds. In that Molina fight, he won the first round. Second round, he's cruising. He's winning that round. And literally in the last 10 seconds, Molina lands a big shot, steals the round. And third round, it looks like his cardio went out. But that was a good fight. If he kept his composure in that second round, he would have stood a better chance if he didn't get hit with that, if he didn't lose that second round. But I don't really like his style, man. He's kind of like a zombie, kind of like a Priscilla Cachoeira male version, just goes forward, throws shots. Defensively is not the greatest, but he's really effective because he does put on a high work rate. As I mentioned, he puts on pressure. He's hard to deal with, but as the fight goes on, his pressure slows down. His work rate slows down just a bit. Zahabi, though, I like Zahabi's counters. I like his leg kicks. I think he's ready for this fight here. I think this is a fight he could win. With his brother Faraz Zahabi, getting him ready for this fight. I'm sure he's going to tell him to use some wrestling, be patient in this fight, use some counters. As the fight goes on, I think Zahabi can pick him off. I think Zahabi can land those leg kicks. I'm going to go with Zahabi here, man. Underdog. I'm going to go with the underdog in this spot because I think this is a fight that is literally 50-50. So I'm going to go with the more technical guy. Qileng definitely should win the fight. He is the favorite. But I do think Zahabi has the better defense, good counters, good leg kicks. And as the fight goes on, I think he has the better gas tank. So I'm going to go Aiemann Zahabi here to to pull out the upset.
Fight number 5, Miranda Maverick versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. For Miranda Maverick, 2-fight winning streak. She beat Shannon Young back in November. Stand-up is decent. Definitely willing to engage with her opponents. She's going to throw with combinations, throw with good pace, throw with good activity. Likes to come forward as well. Her strength is definitely in her ground game, though. Good wrestling, good grappling. And she has good pressure and control when she has that top control. A good ground and pound, really active ground and pound. She's really strong physically as well. Not really the best at handling forward pressure from her opponents. Just 44% takedown defense to that point. So she definitely has some holes in her game, but still very young, just turned 25 years old. So this is, things that she can improve vastly on a fight-over-fight basis. And she's going up against Jasmine Jasudavicius, who had a unanimous decision win over Gabriela Fernandez back in February. Decent kickboxer. She wants to stalk her opponents down with her stand-up, regular jab usage, a lot of fake jabs as she tries to find her timing. She's pretty steady, kind of stays right in front of you, tries to close that distance. Takedowns are a very active part of her game. Pretty decent wrestler at that, 2.5 takedowns per fight. Look for her to find that clinch against the cage, work the takedowns from there, again, with that forward pressure. Expect decent ground and pound from her as well, and decent top control. Maverick is the big favorite in this one. Maverick, of course, is the higher level prospect here. You expect the UFC to be behind Miranda Maverick if this happens to be a close fight. I think the key stat for this fight is Maverick's 44% takedown defense. We know that Jasudavicius, she's been able to find a path to victory using those takedowns, but that was against a fighter with horrible takedown defense in her last fight. And each of her UFC wins, including her Dana White Contender Series fight, has been fights where she has been able to land multiple takedowns. So analytically, that alone is going to put some value on the underdog here, Jasmine Jasudavicius, in addition to, again, the home crowd for the Canadian Jasudavicius. But that said, I'm looking at Miranda Maverick again, her takedown defense on paper, just 44%, but her actual takedown defense might be a bit better than what that percentage indicates, because pretty much all of those takedowns happened against Erin Blanchfield, who, we've seen look like Khabib at this point. So outside of Erin Blanchfield, she's only given up 3 takedowns in 5 other UFC fights. So what that tells me is I think she will be able to keep Jasudavicius off of her, by way of being the aggressor on her end, rather than allowing Jasudavicius to be the aggressor, and by way of Maverick going for takedowns on her end, rather than allowing Jasudavicius to try to land those takedowns on her. Simply put, I just think Maverick is the better talent. I think this will be a tough test with an opponent who is similar to her, but I think she will pull through. I'm ultimately trusting the younger, higher level prospect to get it done here. I'll say this can be a sticky one to blindly throw in a parlay. You only really want to add this ticket to a ticket if you feel very confident in it, because I do think Jasudavicius is live, but just won't have enough to get it done. 25-year-old versus 34-year-old, a higher level fighter versus a fighter who is not as high of a level. I'm going with Miranda Maverick to get it done.
Yeah, it's a fight where Jasmine goes out there, gets some takedowns, being the bigger girl, could win the fight, but that's not happening, right? Miranda Maverick's gonna be the smaller, the shorter fighter, better center of gravity. It's gonna be harder to take her down. It's not like Jasmine has great takedowns. She really only implements the great wrestling against fighters that aren't really good in that area, aren't really that skilled in stopping the takedowns. Now, in this fight, Miranda, I think, keeps it on the feet. On the feet, Miranda is the much better striker. Yeah, she doesn't have the reach advantage, but she's not going to be the taller fighter in this fight. But skill for skill on the feet, Miranda's far better. So I think Miranda gets this one. I think she wins it easily as long as the judges don't scam her in this fight. I think this is a fight that on paper she should easily win.
Fight number 6, final fight of our prelims. Let's talk Nassourdine Imavov versus Chris Curtis. Great middleweight fight here. Imavov, a unanimous decision loss to Sean Strickland. That was back in July. Good calm movement, very light on his feet, very crafty as a striker. Quick jab, quick left hook as well. He's a really good counterpuncher, really good timing, good striking speed. But again, calm movement, stays very relaxed. Expect him to be a high level striker with high IQ, respectable takedown defense as well at 72%. He has trained with Dagestani wrestlers, so he can land takedowns as well, just not an active part of his game at all. He's very much a striker. Chris Curtis, on the other hand, had that unanimous decision loss to Kelvin Gastelum back in April. He's a southpaw, primarily a boxer, clean boxer at that. He can put good combinations together, pretty composed on the feet, good punch IQ, effective counterpunching, and great power to go behind that. Half of his 30 wins are via KO, TKO. Legitimately good takedown defense, 100% on paper in 6 UFC fights at this point. That may not be relevant for this fight, though. Like I said, really good middleweight fight. You got to think there could be a strategic advantage here for Chris Curtis, given that Imavov's last opponent, Sean Strickland, is close teammates with Imavov's current opponent, Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis and Sean Strickland, two different types of fighters, though, so I don't really put too much stock into that aspect of it. That said, I do like Nassourdine Imavov to get it done here. I think that we're looking at a fight between two high-level strikers, and more importantly, two strikers that are technicians, two strikers that will want a high-level fight. I'm not going to anticipate either fighter being too overwhelming for the other. So it's really going to be all about the skill set itself in this one. And this is a fight where I think that Imavov's skill puts him in a better spot. I think it's due to his movement. I think it's due to him being the more dynamic of the two strikers. I believe he'll be faster on the feet, and sort of the same way that Kelvin Gastelum was able to do against Chris Curtis. I think he's going to be able to use that constant movement to land more points and ultimately to stay out of danger. So I'm looking at Nassourdine Imavov to kind of have a return performance, get back to form, take out a teammate of the person he just lost to, and get the win versus Chris Curtis.
Yeah, this can be a tough one because when you look at the Imavov versus Buckley fight, he got 2 takedowns in that fight, and Curtis is not giving takedowns away to anybody. So Imavov can't use the takedowns to win a round in this fight. He's going to have to do this strictly on the feet, it seems like, unless he can be the guy that can break the Chris Curtis takedown defense. Not sure, right? On the feet, though, it can go either way. You can see Imavov using the movement, the length, to tag up Curtis. You can also see Curtis using his superior boxing skills to get inside. He's never been, he hasn't really been knocked up many times, I think once. So he can take a good shot. And just fighting in the pocket, getting body shots, just teeing off on Imavov. And as the fight goes on, Imavov kind of drains out. This fight is 50-50. I don't feel confident in this fight. I was flipping over many times as far as the fight, but after hearing Harris's prediction, he's making me want to lean Imavov. Right before it, I'm leaning Curtis all day, like not all day, but in a close fight, I was going back and forth. I'm thinking, if Imavov can get him down as the fight goes on, Buckley had real good success in that 3rd round. And Curtis is similar because he does throw combinations like Buckley in terms of the boxing. But if Imavov can't take him down in the earlier round, it's going to be harder for Imavov to win that round as well. His cardio is not going to be the same as it was in that Buckley fight. It's a tough fight because I think both guys can win. But I'm going to trust in Imavov. I know the UFC sees talent in this guy, but Curtis is on a roll. I can definitely see Curtis winning this fight in a coin flip. I'm going to land on Imavov pulling this out somehow. But by all means, I don't feel confident because I honestly feel like this is a fight Curtis can school him in and keep it on the feet, box him up, get this into 3 rounds, and do some damage over 3 rounds. But I'm going to take a chance once again with Imavov here getting the win.
All right, let's move on to our main card. Main card has 5 fights. Overall, fight number 1 of the main card, we're looking at Marc-André Barriault versus Eryk Anders. For Barriault, he beat Julian Marquez back in March. He's introduced as a striker, decent striker at that, decent combinations, good jab, covers up well. He's going to look for those counter-punching opportunities. He's going to mix in that calf kick here and there. But it's ultimately expect him to come forward, put that pressure on his opponents, kind of try to rough you up, be that tough type of fighter. Just 62% takedown defense, which could be costly for him. He definitely struggles against fighters that have a ground game, so he is a bit one-dimensional in that aspect. But again, he does have some clinch, some dirty boxing. Wants to keep the fight on the feet, has a consistent pace, has reliable cardio. He's going to be one of those guys that just keep coming. Eryk Anders, on the other hand, beat Kaldakis back in December. Solid all-around fighter, not really the fastest hands, not really the fastest fighter in general, but has good power, has good continuous pressure. Also throws a lot of fakes and jabs to kind of set things up. He's going to try to incorporate his wrestling. We see the takedown numbers there, 1.6 takedowns, just 26% on the accuracy side of things. Oftentimes, his game is a lot more predicated on good clinch work rather than actually landing the takedown every time. Solid takedown defense, too, at near 80%. Cardio naturally going to be an issue with him with his frame, but that is something that we have seen improved. Ultimately, I'm looking at a close fight between two fighters who are going to rely on their attrition, rely on their toughness, rather than their skill per se. You got to like Anders' ability to land takedowns, along with Barriault's subpar takedown defense, especially given the odds. Barriault should be the better striker here, although Anders, he can definitely use some of that forward pressure to his advantage. I think the X factor in this fight for me is Eryk Anders' cardio. Even if Anders lands takedowns in that early part of the fight at just 26% accuracy and with questionable cardio, that's telling me it's a lot of attempts. It's a lot of draining of the cardio. I can see those attempts being harder to land as the fight goes on. And I can see Barriault being the more effective striker as the fight goes on, sort of in a similar fashion to his last fight against the fighter in Julian Marquez, who also had questionable cardio. But unlike his last fight, I don't think Barriault gets to finish here because Anders is definitely tough. But I do see Barriault winning the fight based on picking up the pressure and the pace as the fight goes on, while stuffing those takedowns, while having Anders sort of run out of cardio. Plus, again, the home crowd as the X factor kind of keeping Barriault going. So I'm going to go with Marc-André Barriault to get it done here. I definitely understand why he's the favorite.
You don't want to do this one over, man? I think I have my mute off.
No, we're good. I didn't hear you.
Okay, cool. All right, yeah. So tough fight, man. Eryk Anders, he looked good in his last fight. He's definitely improving, especially in the boxing. Had really good hands in that fight as well with Dawkins. Hurting Dawkins, looked good on the feet. Basically a football player, a real athlete versus I think Andre Burrell. I don't think he was a hockey player, but he's Canadian, so he probably played hockey at some point. So we got a football player versus a hockey player. And Anders, like you said, cardio is a big issue, and I think that's gonna be a problem against a guy like Marc-André Barriault. This guy has good cardio, good pace, gets better as the fight goes on. If Anders doesn't put him out there, put him away, I can see Marc-André holding him against the cage, just beating him up, man. Even the striking, I think his boxing, as the fight goes on, his boxing really does look crisp. So I'm going to go with Marc-André Barriault here, surviving the early going, and then pretty much taking over as the fight goes on.
All right, second fight of our main card, Dan Ige versus Nate Landwehr. For Ige, he beat Damon Jackson back in January. Good all-around fighter, good stand-up, fakes, feints, level changes, all included in his attack. Good punch IQ, good combinations, the in and out movements there, lateral movement is there, the accuracy is there, the power definitely there as well. Good defensive guard, but unfortunately that's going to come at the cost of not really having the best takedown defense at just 52%. That definitely could be relevant for this fight. He can land takedowns in his own right, 1.25 per fight. He did land one in his last fight. Otherwise, expect him to keep the fight standing, expect him to keep it striking. But again, good overall fighter with solid IQ, high-level fighter going up against a fighter with a lot of hype. behind his name right now. Nate Landwehr, good momentum on his 3-fight winning streak that he's on. He beat Austin Lingo back in March. Solid stalking style of stand-up, decent counter puncher, decent movement in and out of striking range. The calf kick is there. The jab is pretty decent. The striking does look improved, more composed than it's been in the past. Has some wrestling for sure. 1.36 per. 5 takedowns landed in his last 3 fights, so that is a consistent thing that he is turning to. Good scrambling as well if he is taken down, but otherwise good overall takedown defense. Always game, always tough, great cardio, great power, and again, a lot of momentum behind his name. I think this is a good opportunity for Nate Landwehr, to prove whether he belongs in this upper crop of the division or not. But let me not take too much time here. Unfortunately, I think for Landwehr, I'm all the way Ige on this one. I can see most of this fight standing, and Ige to me is just the better striker with higher IQ. We've seen Landwehr hurt, whereas Ige has never been finished before. Strength of schedule, of course, is on Ige's side. This is a huge step up in competition for Landwehr, and I just don't think he's at Ige's level. I think he will be outclassed in this one. I think Ige gets it done, no problem. That said, I'm not going to rush to put this on parlays, but I do think Ige gets it done, no problem.
Hey, yeah, I was feeling Landwehr, man. This guy has shown good pace, good cardio, good durability, and he has that dog in him. So as the fight goes on, he definitely gets better. Ige gets to the 3rd round, doesn't really have that much cardio left. In some fights, he definitely slows down a lot compared to Landwehr. When you look at skills, Ige is a far better striker, much better boxer, good left hand, good power. Landwehr, you're not really getting much defense out of him. So this fight, I think, can go either way. But I think that Ige is going to catch him. I think he's going to catch him in the first 2 rounds. But if this fight gets to 3 rounds, if it's one of those fights, Landwehr, after that second round and a half, he seems to have more pace than the guys he's fighting. But now this is a big step up. I expect Ige to match him when he gets to that point, and should be able to do enough to win that round as well. 3rd round, I could see being all Landwehr, but I think the first 2 rounds, Ige has enough to win those or possibly get a finish.
3rd fight of our main card, we're looking at Mike Malott versus Adam Fugitt. Mike Malott, 5-fight winning streak. He beat Johan Lainez back in February. He's a southpaw. Some switch stance as well. Regular jab, regular fakes and feints included in his attack. Definitely expect him to be the fighter coming forward. He's going to put good power behind his striking. 4 of his 9 wins via KO TKO. Got to respect that. Good finishing ability in general. All of his fights are wins via finish. He can land takedowns. He's a good grappler. Again, more than half of those wins via submission. Expect good top control if he gets you down. Not really doing too much ground and pound damage per se, but rather looking for those setup for submissions. So got to be really careful with him on the ground. Adam Fugitt, on the other hand, beat Yusuke Kinoshita back in February. He's a southpaw as well, more of a traditional Muay Thai type of stance on the feet, kick-heavy approach in his game as a result of that stance. A lot of fakes and feints. He's going to try to commit to that consistent forward pressure in his own right. His hands do lack some technique, however. He does put some good sting behind it. However, that said, 5 of his 9 wins via KO TKO, including his last fight, and 5 takedowns in his last 2 fights. So wrestling is his base. He has the IQ, he has the ability in that regard. And as a result, just looking at this fight, this is interesting because prediction-wise, in some ways, anything can happen. Similar skill sets, but I do like Mike Malott here in front of the home crowd for this one. I actually think this fight is kind of set up for him to win. I see him as the better striker. I think Mike Malott has better hands, better overall striking. I think both guys have that power, but Mike Malott is more committed to that forward pressure between the 2 fighters. And I think that forward pressure and I think that ground IQ that Malott also possesses is going to limit Adam Fugitt's ability to land takedowns like we saw in his last fight. I don't think he'll be able to get those opportunities. I think he's going to have to defend takedowns as well from Mike Malott at times. And I think it's gonna, he's gonna also have to defend those submission attempts. So, I do think Adam Fugitt makes it a fight, but a few key reasons in addition to the home crowd, I like Mike Malott to get it done here. I'm not gonna say super confident, but I probably pick Mike Malott maybe 7 or 8 times out of 10 in this matchup. So Mike Malott's gonna be my pick.
Yeah, Adam Fugitt, man, this guy's a dog, man. That's one thing that he has going. He has wrestling, he has takedowns. That's the path he likes to take in a lot of his wins, right? And he does have power in his shots, and he does have unorthodox striking. He can land some shots. But Mike Malott is he's pretty much better everywhere. The only thing I give Adam Fugitt, he's gonna be the bigger guy in this fight. But Mike Malott, he's a coach at Team Alpha Male, I think, in the wrestling. But this guy's well-rounded, good hands, good submissions, and he does have the wrestling as well. I think he's slightly better, not slightly. I think he's better than Adam Fugitt in all areas. But I think Fugitt, because Fugitt has that dog in him, it does give him that chance to win this fight. A lot of times, the fighter that is not the better fighter, but has that dog in him, pulls out victories in the UFC at this level. But I think the UFC's they want him to win. This is a feature fight, right? So you got to look at the business side of this. They're in Canada. Mike Malott is one of the best prospects we have in Canada. There's not much there. I live in Canada. There's not much, and Mike is one of the shining spots we have. And UFC putting him in the feature fight says that the UFC feels the same way. Based on skill. So I think the UFC wants Mike to win for the Canadian market. They're giving him a guy that he should win against. I can see a submission in this fight. I can see a knockout. But I think Mike being better everywhere, being in Canada, I think the UFC is on his side as well. I think this is a fight he should win. So I'm going to go Mike here to get the win.
Co-main event of the evening, Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush. Some would say the best fight this card has to offer. Charles Oliveira lost to Islam Makhachev back in October. Complete fighter. I mean, at this level, I'm going to say that about pretty much anyone here. Sharp striker, sharp straight punches, good speed, good accuracy. We know that camp, that shoot to box camp, full of dynamic strikers. Charles Oliveira is no exception to that. Power speaks for itself. He's dropped guys with really great chins. He's best when he's coming forward. The striking IQ is definitely something that we would consider to be a pretty high level as well. He can land takedowns, just under 2.5 takedowns per fight. And we know, of course, he's an elite grappler, 21 of his 33 wins via submission. Really good in that top control, really good on the ground, really dangerous from bottom position too. Not afraid to pull guard. Really, again, just a complete fighter. Beneil Dariush, very much a complete fighter as well. Unanimous decision win over Mateusz Gamrot back in October as well. That was on the same fighting card. He has good stand-up, likes to throw a lot of kicks and combinations, solid power, definitely going to go for it, not afraid to engage and exchange with his opponents. Decent striking defense at that, good diversity to his striking at that. Solid clinch, good takedowns as well, near 2 per fight. Look for constant fakes, look for constant level changes as he's going to shoot for those takedown attempts. And, he's pretty relentless, right? Not only offensively, but defensively as well. Good takedown defense at 80%, but if he is taken down, amazing scrambling ability to reverse position or to work his way back up. I think that what's dangerous for Charles Oliveira in this fight is that Islam Makhachev kind of gave the blueprint. And Beneil Dariush has a style and a skill set that can emulate that blueprint. That involves forward pressure, forcing the pressure on Oliveira, looking for those clinches, looking for those takedown opportunities. Again, Oliveira not afraid to pull guard, and ultimately trusting your ground ability enough to avoid that submission of threat coming back from Oliveira. The difference here is that I don't think Dariush's striking is as clean as Makhachev's. And that's not to say it's better or worse. I just think with it not being as clean, I don't think he can catch Oliveira in those striking moments the way that Makhachev was able to. And I think Dariush, being a bit more reckless, that can give Oliveira an opportunity to actually land one on him. Fight, again, really tricky to predict. I think it can go either way. I don't think you can go wrong on either side of this betting coin. For what it's worth, I do believe that Beneil Dariush is the better striker. I do think Beneil Dariush is the better wrestler. So I definitely understand why he's the favorite. He checks two of the major three boxes. Oliveira getting the grappling box checked in his favor, but Dariush not being that far behind. Definitely won't be betting this. I just want to enjoy this one. I feel like I can only really give a gut feel type of pick. Wouldn't surprise me if Dariush, was able to be too much pressure-wise, clinch-wise, wrestling-wise for Oliveira. But my gut says that Oliveira finds a way to hurt Dariush. 3 of 4 Dariush's losses have been via KO TKO. And I think that Charles Oliveira can exploit that. So I'm going with the underdog in this co-main event, Charles Oliveira. I think he gets it done. I think he gets back into a winning position.
Yeah, one thing you got to know is when you have fighters this good, anyone can win these fights. Both sides are live. Both sides can win this. The smallest things will make a difference in this fight. Things we can't predict, right? So when you're that good, when you're at this level, both of these guys are at, it doesn't really matter what I say because both guys can literally win this fight. Both are well-rounded. Both have grappling. Both have wrestling. Who's going to get off first is who's going to win this fight. And Oliveira has that pressure game. He has that long game, front kicks as well. He has knees in the clinch. He has good takedowns. He has good grappling, very, very good grappling. But Dariush is pretty much the same. And but aside from the pressure, he's more of a counter striker, throws kicks, mixes it up well. Fight can go either way. I'm going to go with Dariush just being a bit more hungry right now. I think Oliveira got the fame. He got the glory. I think Dariush is more hungry in the gym, putting in more work. Again, we don't know, but a fight of inches, a fight that is going to be battled and decided by inches. I'm going to go with Beneil Dariush, but I think this is a fight that I don't think goes to decision. I think someone's getting finished in this fight, but I'm going to go with Beneil to get the win.
Let's talk main event of the evening. Champion, double champ, Amanda Nunes taking on title challenger Irene Aldana. This is in the women's bantamweight division, so the 135 for Nunes. Nunes beat Juliana Pena back in July to regain that double champ status. Very dangerous. I mean, we know her prowess on the feet, scary power, fast hands, explosive, dangerous in both stances, but also very patient, right? Not a brawler by any means, very methodical, great timing, picks her spots really well. Complete fighter. She can land takedowns, she can grapple, has good ground and pound, 82% takedown defense as well, which shouldn't matter in this fight. And she's also physically strong, especially at 135, so definitely can do it all. Irene Aldana beat Macy Chiasson back in September. She's introduced as a striker, good lateral movement. She's light on her feet. She has a decent jab, decent calf kick, sneaky straight right hand with good power on it. She's a good boxer and a good overall striker with good IQ. Gotta respect her power, especially in the women's division where not a lot of knockouts happen. 8 of her 14 wins are via KO TKO. That includes her last fight. Gotta respect the threat that she provides there. She has a good chin, solid head movement as well defensively. Definitely willing to engage. She will absorb some shots, but she's tough. Also 81% takedown defense, which is very relevant for this fight. But I do want to highlight she did give up 3 takedowns in her last fight to Macy Chiasson. She also gave up 5 takedowns to Holly Holm 3 fights ago. 2 relevant pieces of information that could apply to this fight. I'll start by saying this. Nunes, she's definitely slowed down a bit from her prime. I mean, she's 35 years old. I think, 4 or 5 years ago, she was definitely a much more explosive threat. And I think Aldana presents a challenge, particularly with the striking, that Nunes has never really seen before. I can't definitively say that Aldana has better striking, but I do think that she has the better boxing. That said, I don't think it's going to be enough as sort of her only advantage. We see Aldana's 81% takedown defense, but again, Holly Holm landing 5 takedowns. Again, Macy Chiasson landing 3 takedowns. And, one of those Chiasson takedowns led to a dominant second round for Chiasson. It led to, a round that she had complete ground control. And I think that's going to give Nunes that path to be able to do the same thing should the fight get sticky on the feet. Nunes has that 5-round experience, although Aldana did fight 1 5-rounder against Holly Holm. Nunes is still the more dangerous striker, if you ask me. Nunes, again, has the ability to resort to takedowns, whereas Aldana, much more of a striker. This fight should be Amanda Nunes' take, though I am interested to see what kind of challenge Aldana will be. Nunes should get it done, unless her motivations are elsewhere. If you're just lining up the skill set and if you're lining up the ways that she can win this fight, in addition to the 5-round experience, in addition to Aldana being a replacement opponent, I think 2 weeks ago or so, everything points in favor of Amanda Nunes, although Aldana should be a tough challenge. So I'm going to go with Amanda Nunes. She should get it done, unless we're surprised the same way we were surprised in that first Pena fight. Nunes should get it done, no problem.
Yeah, this is Nunes all day, but you got to factor in Aldana, man. That a lot of Mexican fighters have been doing really, really well lately. And her training teammate, Alexa Grasso, went in there prepared. So you got to think her training, her team over there, same as Grasso, same coaching staff, is going to have her ready for this fight. But I don't think it's enough time to get her prepared here, because the grappling difference in this fight is huge. And fighters that have been able to take her down, Nunes has better wrestling, better grappling. And on the feet, she has a lot of power. Like, she's going to be able to dictate the fight with her power. I think at some point she's going to hurt her in the first round, hurt Aldana. May not knock her out, but I think that's going to pretty much change the course of the fight, have Aldana really hesitant. I really respect the power Nunes brings. And I think that's going to be a big, big issue in this fight for Aldana. Even if Aldana is winning the striking amount, like she has more strikes, I think the bigger shots from Nunes is going to give her the fight. Takedowns as well. So I like Amanda Nunes here. It's pretty much a lock here, because Aldana really needs to get a knockout to win this fight. I don't see her doing it over 5 rounds to win each round, but she needs a knockout. And I think Nunes has a good chin. I think Nunes has a really good chin. And I don't think Aldana can take those shots.
All right, let's take it to Vegas. Let's see how we feel about some underdog picks. Let's see how we feel about some favorites as well, some parlay action that we're potentially looking at. Let's, of course, start with underdogs. I will list them out. Diana Belbiţă is a slight underdog against Maria Oliveira. Steven Erceg is the underdog. Kyle Nelson, Aiemann Zahabi, Jasmine Jasudavicius, Chris Curtis, Eryk Anders, Nate Landwehr, Adam Fugitt, Charles Oliveira, and Irene Aldana.
Yeah. Okay. So for the underdogs, I'm gonna roll with Aiemann Zahabi's an underdog, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with Aiemann Zahabi.
Aiemann Zahabi, 2.0 underdog. Definitely a double up there. My underdog, of course, rolling the dice on a high level fight. But to that point, a high level fight, anything can happen. I'm looking at Charles Oliveira at 2.2. And in terms of favorites or parlays, what are you taking a look at?
Okay, I like Blake Bilder, Miranda Maverick. I like Mike Malott and Amanda Nunes.
All right, so 4 fights, 3.58 is the stakes on that. That means $100 will return a total of $358 for our bigger bettors. $250 will return a total of $896. For my ticket, it's actually looking pretty similar, except I'm dropping Blake Bilder. So my 3 picks are actually Miranda Maverick, Mike Malott, Amanda Nunes. So if you want to potentially consider just the three of those, you'd be looking at a 2.56. That means that $100 will return a total of $256. And for our bigger bettors, $250 will return a total of $640. So let's sign off on that note. This has been UFC 289, Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana. Full card prediction video presented by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. Please press the thumbs up on this video. Please subscribe to the channel here at Boxing MMA Picks. And most importantly, we want to hear from you in the comments. How do you feel about our picks? What picks are you looking at? What parlays are you looking at? Who are your underdogs? Or if you just want additional commentary, additional props that you're potentially considering, let that all be known in the comments. We're more than happy to have that conversation with you. Official sign off though. He goes by Zan. I go by Harris. We are Boxing MMA Picks for UFC 289. Amanda Nunes versus Irene Aldana. And in our usual fashion, let's get this money.
Let's get it.